For me, a meal is not a meal without a great potato dish. When I think of those great potato dishes, pomme Maxim, gratin dauphinoise, a pomme boulangère, buttered new potatoes. Without them, the table's naked. So the dish I'm going to show you is a pomme Maxim. It's a great classic. 2 ingredients, butter and potatoes. So, that's our centerpiece. Right. One thing I would recommend when using a mandolin is to keep your fingers out of the way, and especially your thumbs. Use your palm. Just dry your potatoes on the cloth. Don't wash, because we need the starch. Because the starch is the cement. It's what holds it all together. In that 3-star world, you tend to make individual ones à la minute, to order. You tend to cut the potato, but making it this way, there's no waste. So, then what we do is just place our potatoes. What we're really doing is making a giant daisy. Then what we do is we just glaze it with a little bit of butter. And then we season. Butter first before you season. Because if you season before you put the butter on, the salt will extract the water. So remember, butter first. Remember to keep your fingers away from the blade. The potato I'm using today is a Golden Wonder. I'm slicing them about 2 mils in thickness. So proceed again. Just dry the potatoes. When you make this potato dish, it's 3 or 4 potatoes. Make sure they give or take the same size, same shape. So therefore you don't have to use a cutter. So again, dry your potatoes. And then proceed again. Just tuck it under. And then once again, the butter, one for flavouring, to give it that richness. And secondly, to protect the potato. So when you season, it doesn't start to leak its water. Slice your potato and keep it together as one. Try not to mix the layers. And once again, dry your potato slices. Remove the water, as I said, If you wash, you remove the starch, and then it won't construct and hold together. So don't wash. There we are. Again, butter your potatoes. Season once more. And a little butter for the frying. We place on the heat, bring the heat into the pan slowly, and caramelize gently until it's beautifully golden, and then we'll flip it. If you haven't got a solid top, a medium to high flame. Once the heat comes into the pan, then knock it back to low to medium, because the heat's within the pan already, so all you have to do is retain that heat. Otherwise, what will happen is you will scorch. The pomme Maxim is cooking beautifully. It's just starting to caramelize. The heat in the pan is perfect. I don't want it any higher or any lower. The clarified butter is working. It's creating that caramelized effect on the potatoes. I can smell that nutty flavour of the butter, which is deliciously rich. This is one of those few jobs in a kitchen which is a guessing game. I can see it starting to go golden on the outside, but I have to guess what it's like in the middle. In the professional world, the world that I came from, they used to call the solid top the piano. It's something you don't hear anymore. The reason why they called it a piano is because the bullseye is really hot. And then from the bullseye out to the edge of the stove, the temperature weakens. And so you had to teach yourself how to play the piano. And that's why they called it the piano. So when you're cooking, you push pans there, in the middle. And sometimes you might have 10 pans on a stove at once. Great cooks, another quality that they possess is they know how to multitask. Lots of cooks can't do the stove. And I saw that within my life, where there were cooks who couldn't coordinate. So, before you turn your potato, remove 90% of the butter. Okay. So we have to do the turn. And so what I always do, just butter your tray very gently. So when you do the flip, it slides back into the pan without distorting it. Okay, here it goes. As you can see, because it's buttered, just slides back in. And then add the butter that you removed back into the pan. There we are. And now just cook gently. Once you've flipped it, give it 5 minutes and just push your knife in gently and you'll feel the resistance. Give it another 2 minutes, less resistance. Another 2 minutes, no resistance. And that's when it's cooked. It just slides through those layers of potato. No resistance, cooked to perfection. Okay. And there we have it, our pomme Maxim. Little crystal salt. If you want to turn your pomme Maxim into a main course for two, cook 4 eggs, slide it on top, crispy fried onions, slivers of vegetarian hard cheese, under the grill for 30 seconds, bang, cut in half, delicious. Little salad on the side. What more do you want? Man cannot live on potatoes alone. And there we have it, pomme Maxim. If I flick through the filing cabinets of my mind, I take myself back to the Hotel St. George. One of the very first dishes I was ever taught was pomme boulangère. Sliced potatoes, onions, and stock. The George was really important for me. It taught me how to run. It taught me how to use a knife. It taught me how to organize myself. It taught me how to say, yes, chef. They disciplined me. They taught me to be focused. The things that I learned there were not how to do things. It wasn't until I went to Box Tree that I started to be taught how to do things correctly and properly. Okay, the first job. A little butter. And let's take the onions. And seasoning. Let's add more butter. It's important to know what's happening in the pan. And I can tell just by standing over that the water content has almost evaporated, because now I can start to smell the natural sweetness of the onion. It's no longer acidic. When I first started cooking, I could smell the acidity. The reason why they're called pomme boulangère is because on a Sunday morning, the French would make their pomme boulangère at home, and just before they went to church, they'd drop them off at the baker's shop, the boulangerie. He'd pop them in the bread oven, they'd go to church, and on the way home, they'd collect their potatoes and then have it for lunch. And there's that great French classic, gigot d'agneau, the leg of lamb with the pomme boulangère and the roasting juices. Extraordinary. You bring some petit pois à la française with them, amazing. That's why the French are so good, because they understand flavours, they understand textures, they understand the technique of cooking. Just tilt the plate to drain the butter. So the next stage is butter our dish. There we are. So just butter very lightly. Okay, the potatoes. Okay. So slice our potatoes and lay them on the cloth to dry. So the first job. a little vegetable stock. Just dry your potatoes a little. One of my favourite potato dishes. Lay those potatoes. Just dry them. Shavings of potatoes. Once again, just take off the excess water. And once again, the starch cements it together when it's cooked. Whatever you do, don't wash them. Again, don't season the potatoes until you've added the stock. Otherwise, they'll start to extract the water. So we've done 3 layers of potatoes, but look at them. They're way too thin. So, the onions are drained. You could use a colander, but chefs tend to not. They tend to pour things onto trays and tilt the tray for everything to run away. So now, a little stock, and then a little salt, and a little white pepper. Now we take the onions. Distribute evenly. Construction is very important to me because if the construction is not correct, then how can the presentation be correct at the end? Quantities are very important. Ratio of potatoes to onion, and then the stock. And let's not forget, the stock shouldn't be too strong in flavour. For the simple reason is, we want to taste the onions, we want to taste the potatoes. And with vegetable stocks, they can be oversweet, so make a very light stock. Okay. Again, we proceed with the potatoes. Drain the excess water. The construction should almost be like fish scales. Okay, there we are. And just cover with a little vegetable stock before you season. And just compact down. And what you will notice, the potatoes are already starting to drink the stock. Season. There we are. From a distance, so it's even. Take some onions. I'm always generous with the onions because I like them. But again, let your palate dictate. There we are. So like the potatoes, distribute your onions evenly. And don't be scared of getting dirty. Use your hands. With your hands, you start to feel food, touch food, understand food. Food has always been my mistress and also my therapist. Spend time with her, she'll teach you more than anybody else in this world. As you can see, it's all starting to absorb into one, and that's what you want. Okay, the process starts all over again. People speak of all these luxury ingredients being very expensive. Black truffles, white truffles, caviar, saffron, and the list goes on. But the most expensive ingredient of all is your time. Think about it. There we are, just compact down a little bit. A little stop. Okay. Now, the final layer of onions. You may have thought when I started frying the onions, wow, that's a lot of onions. But look, there's not that much there. You just take those last few bits of onion, a little bit of the butter. Don't waste. As you've obviously learned by now, I like butter. There we are. It makes everything taste delicious. Okay. On to the final layer. There we are. Move that out of the way. Okay. And once again, start to dry them. A bit of the excess butter, just paint on cheap potatoes. It's all flavour. And just to finish, a little stock. A little pressure. So tin foil. And then butter your tin foil. There we are. So, on the stove, just bring some heat into the dish to speed up the process of the cooking. Not necessary, but in a perfect world, that's what you do. Okay. And there we have it. In the oven at 120 for 1 hour 20. So that has been in the oven 1 hour, 20 minutes exactly. And there we have it. Little glaze. And what you will notice is all the stock has been drunk by the potatoes. One of the simplest and most delicious potato dishes ever invented. And just to finish, a little crystal salt. There we have it. But now what we do is we leave it to rest and let the potatoes do their work, where they absorb the butter, the stock. They become intoxicated. The truth is, drunk on stock. That's what happens to the potatoes. Oh my God. That is truly beautiful. Okay. Cooked to perfection. Soft, but with texture. What I can feel and smell is that the potatoes have absorbed all the stock, all the butter, taken on the flavour of the onion. So, chef's perk. So there we are. Oh my God. And there we have it, pomme boulangère. And if I'm not eating it with meat or fish, then I will just have it with a splash of olive oil, a little salad, delicious for lunch. Rösti potatoes, once again, very rarely seen. When I was a young man in Le Gavroche, we used to make them all the time. They're delicious. All it is matchstick potatoes, dried in a cloth, in a bowl, tossed in butter, seasoning, and fried in dry fried butter until crispy. It's that simple. Okay. Just try your potato. Always be aware where your fingers are. The mandolin has this wonderful way of eating your hands. There we are. As you may have noticed, I slice lengthways, not across. If you ask me why, I don't know. Oh. Okay. Then dry your potatoes. Just take off that excess water into the bowl. So we've dried our potatoes. A little butter. Work your butter through your potatoes. Seasoning. And season while they're moving. Otherwise, it'll stick. There we have it. Okay. Little butter. Take our potatoes and spread them across. Just work them into shape. little more butter. Compact them down. So that's the basic shape. Okay. Into the middle of the stove. Bring the heat in slowly. And like the Maxims, that gentle caramelization, which is just built up slowly. Because if you don't do it slowly, you scorch them. You don't caramelize them. If you listen carefully, you can hear the pan starting to sing. That noise is the heat starting to extract the water from the potato. And before you can caramelize the potato, you have to extract the water from within it. So just shape slowly. Exactly the same as the pomme Maxim, just oil your tray. Because if you don't oil your tray, when it comes back to sliding it into the pan, once you've flipped it, it can resist, you can lose your shape. There we are. It took me about 30 years to work this out, but my teacher said I was slow at school. As you can see, just slowly shape her. But when you make a latke, exactly the same way with finely sliced onions which have been dried, chop parsley, mix it through in the butter, cook it quickly, bang, slide it onto the tray, slide the eggs on top. Delicious crystal salt, bit of mignonette pepper. You can see why I'm so fat. Slowly rotating the rösti. And I want that nice golden crispness on the outside before I flip it. Just keep on shaping her. No rush. Let the pan and the stove do the work. I'm just there to guide her, that's all. Okay. Let's move a little bit of the butter. Okay, it's time to turn. The tray. And slide. Okay. A little bit of butter. What makes the rösti delicious is the butter. And the potatoes absorb a percentage of it. If you cooked in oil, it wouldn't be as delicious. If you haven't got clarified butter, then buy ghee. So there we have our pomme rösti. A little crystal salt, just crush between your fingers. That smell of the earth, the sea, and the butter is sensational. And the way to serve it, wow. Oh, look at that. And there we have it, pomme rösti, cooked to perfection. A delicious side dish at any dining table. Every so often in that 3-star world, there's a request. Chips. I've done them before on a few occasions. I've always charged accordingly. They're not triple cooked. They're twice cooked, blanched, and then finished. It's as simple as that. But at the end, what I will do is show you that little twist, the way I like to eat my chips. Okay. Everyone likes their chips at a different thickness. I don't like mine too thick, and I don't like them too thin. But I've got to say, a good chip takes some beating. And there's times when I want a rösti, a pomme Maxim, some pomme puree. But there are times when I want a chip. Okay. If there's a few little slivers at the end, I don't care. Into the water. So let's give them a good wash. Now, just take out that water. There we are. Okay. So first stage, cut and wash. Wash to remove the starch. Then we drain them. We blanch them at 140 for 8 minutes. So we blanch them at 140 degrees Celsius until cooked without colour, and then we drain. To the touch, they just dent. That's perfect. 8 minutes, like I guessed. But now, what we must take into consideration, they're continuing to cook in their own heat. So let's change the temperature from 140 to 180. And when we get to temperature, then we'll cook them the second time. But remember, I said 8 minutes. If you cook them a little thicker, they'll take longer. So always feel them. The next stage is to fry the chips at 180 degrees Celsius. That's to crispen them and a tinge of colour. Nice and crispy. There we have our chips. Season into the pan. And that's the perfect chip. But the way I like to finish them, and I'm sure lots of people will disagree, is a little butter. So I don't like crispy chips. A little butter. And maybe it's all the years I spent with the French. Buttered chips is a 3-star indulgence. Delicious.